Mom, please help me.
Emma, who had been married only 3 months, suddenly showed up in the middle of the night. What happened? When I looked at her, her face was swollen and covered in bruises. I was speechless at the sight of how drastically she had changed. Then, as she told me what had happened, I trembled with anger. Unforgivable. Was the promise to make her happy just a lie? And so, I swore to get revenge on those who had done this to my precious daughter. I'm Susan, 50 years old. I divorced when my daughter, Emma, was still young, and since then, I've raised her on my own while working full-time. Emma is a quiet, determined young woman who never backs down from a challenge. Through consistent effort, she finally landed a job at the company she always dreamed of. Her presence and hard work have been a source of strength for me, helping me stay positive even during tough times. So when Emma told me, "There's someone I'd like you to meet," my heart swelled with joy. The man she introduced was a guy named James, 7 years older than Emma, and working at one of her client companies. He looked sharp in his suit and greeted us warmly. He seemed genuinely serious and sincere.
I'm here today to ask for your permission to marry Emma.
But before he'd even properly introduced himself, he jumped right to that point. Emma was only 23, and I found out they'd only been dating for about 6 months. I was expecting to meet her boyfriend, so honestly, I was a bit taken aback. "Well, you're both still young, so maybe it's a little early to start thinking about marriage?" I gently hinted, but he straightened up, looked me in the eye, and said,
I can't imagine my life without Emma. I truly believe I'll never meet anyone as wonderful as her again.
With a serious look, he passionately expressed how much he cared for Emma.
James, I feel the same way. Mom, please, give us your blessing to get married.
"If you're both this committed, then of course I'll support you." His heartfelt words moved me, and hearing Emma say that, I agreed to let them be together.
Thank you, Susan. I promise I'll make Emma happy.
Seeing them look at each other with such happiness brought a smile to my own face. Yet, after James left, I found myself unable to fully embrace their marriage, and a feeling of unease started to grow. Is this really the right decision? Isn't it too soon? But I've heard that all parents feel a mix of emotions when their child gets married, and honestly, I thought Emma's wedding was still far off. I'm probably just not mentally prepared. They look so happy together. I'm sure it'll be fine. After that, we successfully had a meeting with James' parents, and the preparations for the wedding proceeded smoothly. Both James and Emma are only children. James' parents, Tom and Ashley, who had always wanted a daughter, seemed very fond of Emma.
Mom, I'm thinking of moving in with James' parents after we get married.
It was nice to know they liked her, but apparently they had suggested that she live with them. Are you sure? I don't have experience with it, but I hear living with in-laws can be challenging.
Tom and Ashley are kind, and with James there, it'll be fine.
Well, if it's you, Emma, I'm sure you'll manage. Emma has always been easygoing and has had a way of endearing herself to older people, so I felt she could handle it. Besides, James' parents' home was only a 20-minute drive from mine, so I was reassured that I could easily reach her if anything happened. The wedding went off without a hitch, and Emma began her new life with James' family. I figured Emma was eager to do her best, but about a month after moving in, things started to change. The daily messages from her stopped, and when I texted, it would take her longer and longer to reply. I didn't want to meddle too much now that she was married, but feeling concerned, I finally decided to call her cell phone.
Hi, Susan. What's going on?
It was James who answered the phone. Could I speak to Emma?
She's in the bath right now. Don't worry, she's doing well.
His tone was soft yet firm, leaving me unable to speak to Emma directly, and we ended the call there. Even after that, I still didn't get any messages or calls from Emma. I'll just go visit her.
Feel free to drop by anytime.
Ashley had also told me that, so unable to shake my worry, I decided to visit their house that weekend. Ashley answered through the intercom. She told me, a bit curtly, that Emma was out with James. Sorry for dropping by unannounced. Do you know when they'll be back? She let out a big sigh in response.
If you're coming, you should let us know beforehand. I have no idea when they'll be back.
With that, I realized she had a point, and I left, unable to say anything more. I wondered if I was just worrying too much, but James and Ashley's attitude seemed to have changed since the wedding, and I couldn't shake a bad feeling. After debating what to do, I decided to call Emma's office, just hoping to hear her voice and be reassured. But to my surprise, I was told she's already resigned. On top of that, they added, it's been difficult for us since she left so suddenly. Emma quitting her job, that can't be right. When Emma received the offer from her dream company, the two of us cried tears of joy together. She was so enthusiastic, saying,
I'm going to balance work and home just like you, Mom.
So it didn't make any sense that she would quit so abruptly. This is definitely strange, but what should I do? I didn't know if they would let me see Emma, even if I visited their house again, and I was torn about whether to consult the police. Then, something happened. It was 2 days after I found out about Emma's resignation, in the middle of the night. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Who could it be? It's 2 a.m. Who's at my door? Feeling suspicious, I cautiously looked at the intercom screen. It was dark, and I couldn't see clearly, but the figure looked like Emma. I rushed to the front door and quickly opened it. What's going on at this hour? I've been so worried since I couldn't reach you.
Mom, I'm sorry.
For a moment, I felt relief seeing Emma, but then I was shocked speechless. Her face was swollen and barely recognizable, and she had bruises all over her body. What happened? How did you end up like this? Emma stood there, trembling and crying, and I gently rubbed her back in silence to calm her down.
Well,
With a broken voice, she started to tell me her story bit by bit. After they got married, James's attitude changed almost immediately.
You came here as my wife, so you should serve my family.
And with that, he'd been treating her like a servant. And it turned out that James and his parents were behind what had happened to her. I suspected as much when Emma showed up at my door, but hearing the full story made me tremble with anger.
I didn't want to bother you, Mom. I'm sorry.
Watching her sob, I felt an overwhelming urge for revenge against them. I want them to suffer just as she did.
I'll make her happy.
Even though he'd made that promise, he and his parents hurt her this deeply, and I swore in my heart that I would never forgive them. I let Emma rest, and as soon as dawn broke, I decided to confront them. The next morning, I took her to the hospital first to get her injuries treated. Then, I drove her to their house. Sure enough, they were in a panic, having realized that Emma was gone.
So, you took her away, didn't you?
When Tom saw it was me at the intercom, he shouted angrily, "Can you explain how Emma ended up in this condition?" I remained calm and firm as I confronted him. Next to me stood Emma, her face still swollen, her wounds covered with bandages. Seeing her condition, they reluctantly let us in, perhaps worried about what the neighbors might think. Though they seemed taken aback at first, the three quickly showed their true colors. Ashley glared at Emma, sneering with a scornful laugh.
She just needed a bit of discipline because she wasn't pulling her weight.
"What are you talking about? And James, didn't you promise to make her happy?"
Oh no, that was if she upheld her role as my wife. Instead, she was too focused on her job. So I submitted her resignation.
Emma hadn't left her job by choice. James had taken it upon himself to file her resignation. With tears in her eyes, she explained that by the time she found out, it was too late. All because he didn't like that she was getting busier at work and coming home later than he did. Emma was so happy to be working at her dream company, and she was giving it her all.
That's not my problem. If she can't handle both, then she has to quit, right?
James acted as if he was completely blameless.
James is right. The other day, she took an hour just to make dinner. She can't even do one thing properly.
At this, Tom also chimed in, and Emma trembled, muttering,
That's horrible.
"Then why didn't you help her out, Ashley?" But Ashley, with her arms crossed, replied firmly,
When I married into this family, I was told to learn by doing everything myself.
That's right. It's the new generation's turn. But I was supervising her carefully.
Tom, too, seemed convinced he had done nothing wrong. They exchanged looks and nodded in agreement. In reality, Ashley dumped all the household chores on Emma and did whatever she pleased. Meanwhile, Tom, who was already retired and home all day, constantly monitored Emma and criticized everything she did. To make matters worse, they took her phone so she couldn't reach out to me, and whenever I visited, James would restrain her to prevent her from stepping outside. And it didn't end there. Emma kept believing that one day James would change, that he would help her. Her silent endurance in the face of such treatment was in vain, as their abuse only escalated. They forced her to eat leftovers and restricted her to lukewarm baths, claiming hot water was a waste.
This isn't right.
When Emma finally couldn't take it anymore and confronted them, that's when her body was marked with those unbearable injuries.
You're too cocky.
When Emma spoke up, James slapped her hard across the face. If that wasn't enough, Ashley added,
Let's discipline her.
Then they took turns hitting her all over with a broom. Covered in bruises, Emma was finally let go. Sensing her life was in danger, she waited until all three were asleep, then fled from their house. It took her over an hour to walk to my house, desperate and exhausted. Before the marriage, you treated Emma with respect. Why did you change so drastically? I can't understand this. I confronted them, my voice strong, but the three of them exchanged smirks.
I just wanted a wife who'd obey me from the start. I figured Emma would make a good servant.
James said this casually, and Ashley sighed.
She turned out to be a disappointment.
Well, she's probably learned her lesson, so maybe we should give her one more chance?
At Tom's outrageous suggestion, the three of them burst into laughter.
Enough. I can't stand this any longer.
Anger surged through my whole body, and just as I was about to speak up, Emma fixed her gaze on the three of them and firmly spoke out.
How dare you speak to us like that?
James, infuriated, lunged at Emma, but I quickly put him in a headlock, pinning him to the floor so he couldn't move. James struggled, while Tom and Ashley watched in shock at my swift reaction. I never mentioned it, but back in the day, I almost made it to the Olympics in wrestling. Had to give it up due to an injury. I tightened my hold on James, and he began to whine.
It hurts. Let go.
His limbs flailed, and as I released him, he crumpled weakly to the floor, unable to stand. Pathetic. Now, who's next? I cracked my knuckles as I slowly stepped toward the remaining two.
We're sorry. Please stop.
They looked confused, shaking with fear. I sent Emma off with hopes for her happiness, and I'll never forgive you for putting her through this. At my stern tone, all three of them shrank back.
James, I want a divorce.
Following my lead, Emma presented the divorce papers right in front of James.
What are you talking about? I'm not agreeing to any divorce.
He shouted, his face red with anger. Well, I took Emma to the hospital this morning and got a doctor's report on her injuries, and I've also filed a police report. Since we're completely in the right, I'm prepared to fight this to the end. I looked at each of the three in turn as I told them this. At that, they began to panic, sweat pouring down their foreheads as they shouted in distress.
Stop, please.
Our reputation.
I want this divorce over with as soon as possible.
Emma looked at them with disdain and declared, I look forward to seeing how you deal with what's coming. You'll just have to live with the consequences of your actions. With that, we gathered Emma's belongings and headed to the door.
Wait, please.
James' pitiful voice followed us, but Emma and I left without looking back, walking confidently out of their house. After that, the divorce went through without issue, and we received $20,000 in alimony. The police accepted the complaint, and the three were questioned. Although they were quickly released, officers visited their house as part of the investigation, which led to gossip in the neighborhood, leaving them shunned by the community. As for James, word spread about how he treated Emma, and when it reached his workplace, he was removed from the promotion track. Meanwhile, Emma took time to heal both emotionally and physically at home, and then began moving forward to find a new job. And as for me, my life is far from over. I've recently started training again, this time to get involved in wrestling as a coach.